And until they invented Advair about 10, 12 years ago, I had to take one of those nebulizing machines, that Homo 8, and that thing would go with me everywhere. And so in writing it, I thought that Adam should definitely have a nebulizer.
Tell people the history of this movie. Did it start out as a comedy routine?
It started, it's been a long journey. It started from a scene, a 10-minute scene that I wrote at a showcase. And at the time I was acting and decided that I would write, because they tell you, to write what you know, and if you want to get a break, basically write. And so me and my buddy Sam Wolfson wrote this 10-minute scene. And the premise of the scene is these two guys, Chris and Adam, are at a Jewish singles mixer. And Chris is there to pick up Jewish girls, and Adam's like, why? And Chris is like, because I want to find a Jewish girl, so I'll never have to make another decision for as long as I live. And that was the premise, and that was the scene. And this scene went crazy. We did it over like 3 nights, and then over like the next 6 months, I performed it once a month at this showcase that I was producing. And we kind of felt like we were onto a larger story, and we were like, we should write this, basically about our crazy Jewish upbringing. Sam's a Jew, I'm a Jew. And so we just started brainstorming and remembering everything from Sukkot to Purim to everything. And we spent about a year writing what became Jewtopia, the play. And when we were done writing the play, we needed $80,000 to launch it in a little theater in Los Angeles. And so we did a backers reading, and literally I went through my Rolodex, invited every single wealthy Jew I'd ever met. And the idea was that they would come, they would laugh, they would open up their checkbooks. And so they all came and they laughed, and not a single one wrote a check. So I literally went to the only bank that I thought might be lending at the time.
Bank of Fogel?
Which was the Bank of Fogel. And my father's an attorney in Denver. And he literally created a 7-page legal document that if he were to loan me part of the money for Jewtopia and it were to fail, that I'd go to law school. And we opened up, and I surrounded myself with all these people that had done it before. I found the best theater director that I could find, an amazing costume designer, amazing production designer. We opened up at this little theater on Santa Monica, and overnight it became like a hit. And it was crazy. We were sold out 6 months ahead of time. People were lining up around the theater. About that time, we started thinking about how we could bring it to New York. And we had offers from all these Broadway producers and Clear Channel and Nederlanders to basically buy the show and buy me out of it. And I was like, this is mine. You're not buying the show. So went out and raised $700,000. And at that time, the show was a hit. And we brought it to the West Side Theater off Broadway, opened it up at the end of 2004, and it turned into the longest running comedy in off-Broadway history. And then had productions of it all over the US, Canada. Did a book a few years ago that was like this coffee table book. And all along the way, I really wanted to take the concept and turn it into a movie. And what we quickly found was the first draft of the movie that we wrote was trying to adapt the play into a movie, and that didn't work. In the play, if any of you have seen the play, basically Chris's character is setting up Adam on all these J-dates, and J-date is actually Jewtopia. And literally he's pimping him out in like Hasidic outfits and like ridiculous outfits, and the whole play is like an SNL scene of these two guys on bad dates, and very different than the movie. But the concepts were there, but you never see any of these characters in the play because it's a small play. And so draft after draft after draft after draft, we just kept keeping to the core of the story about these two guys, and just kept expanding the world, expanding the world, expanding the world, and the story changed and changed and changed. And I fought for 6 years to get the movie made, and I wanted to direct it. I just couldn't imagine anybody else directing it. I was originally going to star in it, and I realized that I wasn't the right guy for the role. I mean, in the play, I was playing the Gentile, and I was like, this isn't who I should be in this movie. And then it becomes an ego-driven project. And so when we finally got the financing together and I held on to direct it, this amazing cast just came into it, and it was really incredible because we didn't have any money really to pay them. They all worked for pretty much scale, and it was meeting after meeting where I'd like sit down and I wanted Rita Wilson, and next thing I know I'm getting a call from Rita's agent going, Rita likes your script. She wants to take a walk with you in Malibu. I'm like, okay. I literally go and like knock on the door, and Tom Hanks answers the door. I'm like, what the? And next thing I know, I'm walking with Rita Wilson, and she's like, you know, this reminds me of Greek wedding, and I'm like a Jewish mother, even though I'm Greek, and da-da-da-da-da-da. And we talked for like 2 hours, and it was like, okay, I'll do your movie. And I remember I wanted John Lovitz. I wrote the role for John Lovitz, Dennis. And sure enough, went to John Lovitz with it, and through a casting director. And I had a couple great producers on the project at this time that had some major Hollywood credits. So the cast was feeling like, okay, I can feel comfortable doing this movie. And literally had dinner with John Lovitz, and he's like, you know, Dennis is written just kind of a little bit neurotic and a little bit, you know, what if I change this line to this? I'm like, you're John Lovitz. Write whatever you want. Do whatever you want. Just do my movie. And literally, he came up like jelly. Damn it, Adam, jelly is for toast. That's his line. Literally, when we were doing that scene, and the line, instead of maybe he was blown by a vampire, maybe he was blown by a vampire, which I thought was ridiculous. The line was, damn it, Arlene, you got to stop watching 2020. And he just kept throwing in all these one-liners. And it was really that story with the whole cast of one after the other, sitting down with Jennifer, and next thing we're in a conversation about her vajazzling, and being chased by paparazzi, and at the end of it, it was like, okay, you want to do the movie? She's like, yeah, I want to do the movie. And that was it.
What was it like directing the movie as opposed to the play?
Totally and completely different. This was my first movie. I'd never directed a feature before, but I had directed incarnations of Jewtopia, the play. And what was interesting is coming into it, I came from this theater background where you rehearse, where you go through this audition process, you cast the actors, and in this, there was really not much casting at all. It was like offers. It was literally like, I want Jamie Lynn Sigler. Will she do it? I want Jennifer Love Hewitt. I want, you know, like, you're not auditioning people like this. So it's just like, will Tom Arnold do it? Yeah, Tom Arnold likes it. Okay. So, you know, that process was just essentially the offer. But in theater, you know, you rehearse for 3 weeks, 4 weeks, and, you know, the actors are learning their lines through that rehearsal process. And then you put the show up on stage, and if something isn't working and it doesn't get a laugh, you go back that next day and you fix it, and you write it until it's funny, and you go, oh, okay, this is going to be funny. Okay, I'll try this joke, I'll try that joke. And what was amazing about the filming process just in that case is, first of all, there was like no rehearsal time. So it was spectacular to me. You'd show up on set, and literally we'd have a run-through. You'd run it once, maybe twice, then the actors would break, go into hair and makeup, and you'd shoot it. And what was amazing with dealing with this caliber of actors was every single person in my cast would come on set. They would essentially nail it in the run-through. It was mind-boggling to me. And there wasn't even rehearsals. They would just nail it. And then we'd break, and then we'd shoot it. And a couple takes, any single direction, I'd be like, hey, Jennifer, I think it's like, she's like, okay, I got it. Then we'd do another take, and I'd be like, yeah, perfect, moving on. And it was, and so it was a very different process where in theater I had learned that, oh, you gotta rehearse. And in film, it's just kind of like, it's quick. You're just constantly under this.
How long did you shoot?
We shot this in 21 days.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which was insane.
And what was your budget? Insane.
We made this movie for $1.5 million.
That's amazing. It really looks much more expensive.
Yeah, most people have told me that.
What's been the
it looked
reply?
a
What's
lot
been the
more.
response to it? Where's it played?
Well, the response, the critics hate it, but critics are supposed to hate this because they're critics. And, I mean, there's our articles, this is offensive. It's like it's a comedy. You know, oh, this is stereotypes. You went to see Jewtopia. What movie did you think you were walking into? The movie's called Jewtopia. Do you think there's going to be stereotypes in the movie? The plot doesn't make sense. This doesn't really seem to be real. He was living in Los Angeles. He hadn't met another Jew. Who cares? So, you know, what was amazing, what I found, and I've gotten very thick skin, is when we first opened up in LA, critics loved us because it was new and it was like, whoa, look at these guys. And then we went to New York and they bent me over. And, I mean, the New York Times just couldn't believe that this play was a hit and that people were coming and laughing themselves silly and telling their friends. And every year, the guy who had reviewed our show in New York, Charles Isherwood, wrote in his review of plays every year, he wrote, you know, and another year has passed and Jewtopia is still here. And he was so upset. But what we were able to do is we found out that in one article he said that it was outrageous, and then in another sentence he said something about this is not funny. So we created the New York Times quote, which was outrageously funny. New York Times, fuck you, Charles Isherwood. And that's, so, you know, I found along the way that audiences have loved it, and that it's a comedy, and I hope that you guys really enjoyed it and had a great laugh. That was me.
You created the opening
Yeah,
credits?
not physically. We had such a tight budget, and I wanted to do this really cool opening credit sequence. So I came up with this idea to basically take each one of my actors, cartoon them, do a cartoon version of them, and put them in basically the Torah. You know, basically the history of the Jews, and if you watch it, it's literally, you know, goes from, you know, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, and through the story of Moses and the Exodus of Egypt, all the way through the creation of Israel. And so I put an ad out on Craigslist and found all these graphic artists that done like comic books for Marvel and stuff, saying, hey, you're going to do an opening credit sequence for a film. So I found this great artist and sent him photos of everybody in the cast, and then he basically drew it. And then I went to another buddy of mine, this guy, Peka Thomas, who did this video for me in my book that was kind of similar. And I went to Peka and I was like, hey, do you think you could do this? Basically take this and make it like animation, but it's not animated, just make it all move. And then I remembered that Kinky Friedman song, Shield of Abraham, which I always thought was ridiculous. And then we went to Kinky and he said, yeah, I'd love to have you have the song in the movie. And that was the opening title sequence, yeah.
Are those your parents who get producing credits?
Yes.
And what did they produce besides you?
Oh no, they didn't produce anything, they got to invest.
Okay. We've learned that's what producers do.
And my dad is a lawyer, my mom's a super mom. And
Are they proud of you now?
No.
Do you have to go to law school?
No, my father calls me up the other day, literally, this was like 2 days ago, the New York Times review breaks, and he calls up, he's like, hi. I'm like, hi Dad, how are you doing? I'm like, fine. He's like, I'm really sorry about that. I'm like, what are you sorry about, Dad? Oh, I just read the New York Times. I said, of course they hated it, Dad. Like, the New York Times hated the play. They weren't going to like this movie. Who's going to like this movie? He's like, well, I really like the movie. I think the movie's really, really funny, and all my friends have really liked the movie. I'm like, that's all that matters, Dad. And he was like, and he was really like, but he was like, it was like almost like a teary-eyed moment. Like it was kind of funny. So they're always constantly worried And I think they're always wondering when they're going to be hit up for a loan again.
Let's ask, who has questions in the audience? This lady right here.
Yeah.
I got a question. Brian, I know your parents. And,
You do?
Oh, yeah. You know me, but you're forgetting who I am, but we won't go there right now.
Okay.
They're wonderful people.
They are.
But if you were going to name one person that was real supportive and kept encouraging you on staying the course, because you started, played, book, and all the way following through, who would that be outside of your family?
Let me just repeat it. This lady knows your parents. So you
I
have
know
to figure
them
this
too.
out later. And Brian,
What's your name?
Becky Allfree.
Oh, right, of course. Oh my gosh. Hi, Becky. I
like
thought I
Jewish
saw
geography.
you.
His parents are wonderful people.
Okay,
Yeah,
the
I
parents
mean,
are wonderful, but you want to know who's the most supportive outside of his
yeah, 'cause I
family
know
for his
that you
career.
do- They are supportive, which is cool.
You
But
know,
who else?
yeah, my parents never, ever along this journey have ever said, you shouldn't do this.
I know.
What are you
Right.
doing with your life? Blah, blah. They've always just been 100% supportive,
They're great.
which has been amazing. 'Cause I have really cool parents. They're actually they're not that at all. But my mother has played along with the joke for years and years.
Sweetest woman.
That I've liked.
Sweetest.
And I even had her on The View a few years ago, and you know, and she played the stereotype, which was fantastic. I was like, thank you, Mom. But I would say the most supportive, outside of my parents, maybe my dog.
You could have done your own though.
Anybody? Yes, right here.
I haven't got my dog circumcised yet, and he's still running around with his balls too. I just can't bring myself to do it. It just doesn't feel right.
How did you happen to get Peter Stormare?
Peter, first of all, if you guys know, Peter Stormare, who plays Buck, he's been like my comedic icon forever. Like, I will go see a movie if Peter's in it. He was, Big Lebowski, he's Carl Hungus in the big, cut off your Johnson Lebowski, put the weasel in the tub. I mean, Fargo and Minority Report. I think he's literally been in like 200 movies, and he's like the biggest movie star in all of Scandinavia. Like, he's won all these Scandinavian Oscars and all this stuff. And when the movie was coming together, I'd always loved Peter, and I was like, how ridiculous would you get Peter Stormare to play Buck? And I knew his manager, and I called up his manager, and I was like, hey, Jeff, what do you think about Peter Stormare for Buck? He's like, well, he doesn't really do an American accent, but he can do Southern. I'm like, okay. And so literally I went and had beer with Peter, and Peter likes to drink beer and ice, and at like 3 in the afternoon. And so I had an ice beer with Peter, and he's like, well, I don't really do, I do lots of accents, but I can't really talk American, but I can do Southern. I'm like, okay. And he's like, so I'm just gonna bring like a dialect coach to set. And Peter brought with him, he found some kid from Alabama, who wasn't a dialect coach. He had been a fan of Peter Stormare and took a workshop from him, and Peter heard his voice and was like, hey, you want to be my dialect coach? So this kid's on set talking like this, and Peter's talking like this, and Peter was the only actor in my cast that's method. So he would show up every day literally with dumbbells. And every time he's off set, he's doing weights. I have pictures of Peter offset, and whenever I was talking, he was like, I'm Colonel Buck, this Buck, sir. And yeah, and that was just, he's just a trip. And he's so funny.
This gentleman right here.
When do you see a return on your investment in a movie that is so specific on audience?
When do you see return on your investment? When it's a movie that's for a specific audience. Jews.
Yeah. Are you looking to invest in
Yes.
I have this great next project. It's like an immigrant smuggling comedy, very wide. I wrote it for Paul Giamatti, Jeff Bridges. They're smuggling illegal immigrants in false bottoms with portable toilets. Very, very universally funny, kind of like We're the Millers. So that would be a good investment. But well, we're gonna find out very, very, very soon. you know, in the next few weeks. I think it will. I think it will pay back. I mean, I believe it. I think it's. I think it. I'm hoping it's and Rita Wilson and all these people like that you go, oh, this looks like a fun movie, and I certainly wanted it to be universally funny. I mean, to me, circumcision cartoons are just funny. You don't need to be a Jew to enjoy that.
And word of mouth should be good.
And word of mouth. I hope. I mean, it's all word of mouth.
All the way in the back.
How did you go about getting a distributor?
How'd you get a distributor?
Well, I mean, the cast was obviously, you know, and you got, you know, Jennifer Love Hewitt's known all over the world, and most of the cast is pretty well known. So, you know, you assemble a cast like that, you know, a lot of your battle is over. And then it was the equity that came into the film was all private, and then it just came down to what they wanted to do, and they chose a path to do kind of a smaller release, and then put it. It's on iTunes right now, and it's on demand on every single cable provider, and that was their decision, and then, you know, putting it in theaters at the same time.
How do you get these people to work the scale? How's that conversation go?
Well, the conversation was really two things. There was multiple things. One was please do my movie, please. Two was, you know, I think the idea of, hey, if this hits and you're going to put them in another movie and then you got real money to pay them. Three is that we filmed it in Los Angeles in the summer, and that was my decision. You know, they were looking at shooting out of state to get tax credits, and could have, you know, ended up with probably a $2.5 or $3 million budget had we shot out of state. And I said, well, look, if we go out of state, we're never going to get the cast, because all of a sudden, if you got to bring Jennifer Love Hewitt or Rita or one of these people and shoot it in New Mexico, and you got to fly them out on a plane, and you got to put them in limos, and you got to put them up in hotels and buy them. It's like nobody's going to do it. So I made this decision that if we shot it in LA and that it was a short shoot, that I felt like we'd have a chance of getting these people. And it was like, hey, we need you for a week in Los Angeles. You can leave your home. We'll pick you up in a car. You know, come to set. And between that, and I had two really big producers on it. One is Tucker Tooley, who's the president of Relativity. Like, The Family is his movie. We're the Millers is his movie. I mean, 300 was his movie. I mean, huge movies. And so, you know, the cast was going, hey, Tucker Tooley's producing your movie. Okay, hey, you know, Tucker can put me in multi-$100-million movies. And then I had Andy Fickman, who's been my mentor, and, you know, Parental Guidance he just directed with Billy Crystal and Bette Midler. You know, he's done all these big movies. And so I think between Andy and Tucker, and they liked the script, they liked the project, that people just kind of came in and looked at it as something fun. Like, I remember when John Lovitz came in, he did it because him and Rita had been friends for 30 years. And it goes all the way back from Tom Hanks and Saturday Night Live. And so he was like, this would be great to be, you know, be in a movie with Rita. And Rita was like, I'd love to be in a movie with John.
That's great. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I really can't say 100%, but most of the audience here, I think you do.
No.
I know,
It's like the Catskills again.
In Palm Springs? On a Sunday at 4 o'clock? So you guys can go get the early bird special? That's what you're talking about. No.
That's exactly what I mean.
Okay.
It's focused on you.
Well, it is called Jewtopia.
Yes, let me make my point. How does this go in neighborhoods that are not Jewish?
How will this play in Des Moines, Iowa?
Have you presented this, let's use the term, to a focus group that's not Jewish?
Yeah, I mean, we did a screening in Sudan a couple weeks ago. Really well received. And yeah, we just got an offer we're going to be distributing this in Iran as an anti-Semitic film. I'm very excited about it. I don't know. You know, actually, you know what? I do know. We were the opening night of the Newport Beach Film Festival this year, and they selected us as their opening night film. And they put us in the largest theater in North America, which is this 1,200-seat theater, which I didn't know, in Newport Beach, the big Newport. And they sold out the 1,200-seat theater, so seeing my movie in that theater. And then they sold out another theater, a 500-seater next to them. And there's no Jews in Orange County.
Well, they don't look Jewish anymore.
I mean, you know, at least like Newport Beach, I think there's a ban on Jews in Newport Beach, unless you have a boat. And Jews generally don't like boats, so. But yeah, I mean, that seemed like a really, you know, and people were loving it. So hopefully the comedy is kind of universal, and that's why I figured if I threw in enough penis jokes and stuff that you could go past all the Jewish stuff. Yes, ma'am.
What are the possibilities of bringing the play to our area?
Well,
Can you bring the play to our area?
Samuel French licenses it, so if the theater company were to license it, it would come. Or I still do like engagements, like I have like a 90-minute like stand-up comedy kind of multimedia thing that I do. So I'll travel with that. Like I was gonna play at the McCollum or something. McCallum. Then the booker there said to my agent or something, we don't think there's people would like this in Baltimore. I'm like, what are you talking about? So yeah, I mean, so call the McCallum and tell them that you want to bring me there and I'll be there.
We know the guy. We know.
Yeah.
We can talk to Mitch Gershenfeld.
Yes, Mitch Gershenfeld, that's him. Yeah, tell Mitch to bring me.
Okay, and some comment, I think
Yes.
it was equal opportunity.
Offensive.
Yeah,
Yes.
because you had Hispanic, you had.
Oh, I wanted to
sports,
offend everybody.
sports, the whole thing,
Right.
yeah. And the redneck.
Oh yeah, I mean I wanted to play on every stereotype.
This lady is happy that everybody was there.
Yeah, and that was the thing with Jewtopia, and that was what we did with the show. And this is you're playing stereotypes, of course, the hunting and the Mexican plumber, the Charzas, and I mean it was just turning, like, leaving no stone unturned and trying to have fun with every single stereotype. Because if you're gonna, that's been the whole nature of it. So, and nothing being in a serious vein, but all just coming from having fun.
Take this gentleman.
Yes.
Yeah.
There were no Jews in Skokie either, so. Where's Skokie and where's
Yeah, why Skokie?
Well, I brought in Skokie because, of course, the famous March on Skokie. I mean, it's the most Jewish town in the North Shore of Chicago. So I figured if he's gonna lie about the one place to be from, I thought Skokie. You know.
I grew up there, so.
Yeah.
Any more questions?
Where
Yeah.
did Jewtopia?
The other Gary
was,
Stone.
J-Date.
Okay.
Yes.
Are you attached? Are you single? What is your?
His girlfriend is here.
Tell us about the Fleischman twins.
We want to know if you're single.
Well, I came with this amazing,
Chicksa?
lovely, incredible actress, Lauren Carter. Gosh, there she is.
And is she Jewish?
Aw, so cute. Fantastic actress too, incredibly talented.
Dog, too.
So is she Jewish?
Do you want her to be?
I've been asking that.
Of course not.
What?
What about the Fleischman
I
twins?
wanted to be
The
Jewish.
Fleischman twins were our identical twin midget brothers. Brit. What's that? Oh, no, it's dead.
Well, they put it to your mouth.
Oh, there we go. Hi. Yeah. What? Oh, the Fleischmans? Well, the idea was to be identical twin midgets. And I actually, we didn't have enough time to shoot that, but I had them in those chairs, and those chairs actually moved, like those mobility chairs that will actually help you get out. So they were supposed to be raised out of those chairs like this, and then they were going to come onto the table and fight each other. But we didn't have enough time to shoot.
We got a question way in the back.
And
Hey, Bryan, did you go to CU? I noticed that
Yes.
Ozzy graduated from CU.
yeah, I went to see you.
Yay, Buffalo's been
Yeah,
alive.
I graduated from Colorado.
Well, I noticed she had a red gown. I didn't know what that was all about, so I got a little...
I think that was probably low budget costume design, and that was probably what was in like the warehouse for Fox, where we got all of our clothes out of. Yeah, but
Gary? Yes, this woman.
We noticed in the movie that Jennifer Love Hewitt, who's supposed to be Jewish, was wearing a ring that had a cross on it.
Yeah, I saw the same cross.
Why?
Jennifer Love Hewitt was wearing a
that's
ring
that's
with a
her
cross
ring.
on it.
That's her personal ring.
She's supposed to be Jewish in the movie. She didn't
No, I don't know if it really had a cross. I think it's just maybe.
The audience, I didn't
No,
notice it.
if you want to reach out to her and ask her that, I'll get you her email and you can have a conversation. I'm sure she'll be thrilled.
This lady.
Did you show it in London?
Yes, but
Show it in London.
well, they're making a distribution deal for London right now. It actually opened up in Russia on Friday. Yeah, they've dubbed it into Russian. I'm waiting to see that version. And they dubbed it into German too. I mean, I can't wait to see Jewtopia in Germany.
This lady,
They're gonna
last
dub it.
question.
Yes.
We'll take one last question. This
Last
lady.
one. Yes.
I haven't seen Jane Lindsay since she was Meadow in The Sopranos, and I don't have comments, it's just that I'm so pleased to see how she's matured and.
She's incredibly funny.
Yeah,
Jamie Lynn Sigler was good in there.
Yeah, she was a revelation for me
Yeah.
of how funny she was, and I think everybody in the cast was kind of blown away by it too.
So can I ask you, is this open doors for you now? Jewtopia?
No, it's just
it closed then?
just closing doors. But no, please tell your friends and family and spread the word. And I'm so happy. And thank you for having
Thanks, Bryan Fogel.